Hello, welcome to the NT Zone. This is Dale. So, in the past, I talked about pragmatism and its linking to the functions, but now I want to talk about feeling versus thinking in particular. Okay, so we're talking generally speaking. These are, of course, judgment or rational judgment functions, depending on if you read Jung or look at any of the newer MBTI stuff that has gotten rid of the distinction between irrational and rational and instead labeling the same concepts as judgment versus perception. So we're looking at the judgment functions right now. So extroverted, introverted thinking. Um, if you remember from my video on pragmatism and its influences on the functions, which is not exactly that title, the introverted thinker looks for principles and grinds it into his general view towards reality and facts, looking for principles, reasoning logically, so on, so on, so on. The extroverted thinker is more of an empiricist, a scientist, if you will. And I will, by the way, talk more about the types in particular when I release a series of videos I'm working on regarding each type properly defined from Jung's own conceptions. But I didn't really touch enough on the feeling. But if you read enough of the psychological types, you'll come into page, let's see here, I think 358. He actually uses the idea of feeling values. So, my interpretation of this idea of feeling is that it's about value judgments. Now, what is a value judgment? Well, what's important to people? What's important to the group? What's important? That's the extroverted feeling. What's important to me? Introverted feeling. So, of course, everyone can do this. Everyone can reason this. In fact, individual judgments do not make a type. A type um, or temperament comes from common judgments or common perceptions and their interconnected relationships. But when you look at this notion that uh, feelings are value judgments versus thinking is critical judgments, you might be confused by that because, well, when I am looking at some type of book, say I look at psychological types, my attention is focused on things I find valuable. Well, here's the thing. If you do this, you're investigating. And when you look at the polarities, uh, for example, I call polarity the function with this attitude and its opposite function and opposite attitude. So introverted thinking, extroverted feeling. So if you're introverted thinking, you're always going to have the value judgments of extroverted feeling in the background, even if you don't notice it, even if you might get irritated or upset with people who use extroverted feeling because you think of it as inferior. But at the end of the day, it's there. It's just suppressed. It's very unconscious to you, but it's still there. So, how does this manifest? Well, I look at these different types of concepts. And I'm not just looking at it through something I personally value, not something that would be useful to me. I look at it for something that would be useful for the dialectic. The dialectic will decide everything. And so I consider it what is useful for you, me, him, her. I look at it through a lens of a value judgment that looks at, okay, well, this could be beneficial to people who I uh, am around. It's useful to someone. So I'm going to read this. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to um, put it out there. I'm going to relate it back to my introverted thinking judgments, which are dominant in my case. So an extroverted thinker would take the conceptions of extroverted thinking and say, okay, so how do I value this? What uh, is important about this particular concept which I am researching or looking into through gathering the empirical data? So then that's how they make their decisions. So that TE is connected to FI, TI is connected to FE. Now, here's the time to clarify a myth. If you're a feeling type, that does not mean you cannot think critically. In fact, many feeling types do. The thing about this is that it's the reverse of what I just said. So you're looking at what is valuable to you or to the group. Let's say you're a INFP. Okay, this is valuable to me, but since it's valuable to me, I'm going to look at how to make it work the best and gather as much knowledge about it, to gather the thinking processes needed to understand what is valuable to me and to defend it. And ENFJ often uses TI in a very similar way. What is valuable to the group? Okay, cool. This is totally great. So I'm going to start looking at my conceptions and how it relates to the group. And that's how I can actually benefit the group. So, in other words, you have these polarities, and I think these polarities are very important between the dominant function, or not the dominant function, the function of thinking and the function of feeling. That it doesn't matter the attitude, except for the attitudes will differ. So the opposite of TE is FI, the opposite of TI is FE. So they are opposites, but they kind of definitely feed into each other. Thanks for watching this video. Like, comment, subscribe, share this video. See you in the next one.